qualification match here for the 64-team $25,000 playoffs. My name is McCormiel. Substitution for Proper. I hold shifts here. The sexy man himself is back on air once again on the Alpha stream. But more importantly, Colorado Frost, we saw a crazy game number 5 where they were able to take down the Wyoming University roster 6-4 in an absolute breakdown of a post-plant push in a 4 versus 2 scenario. They came back down 2-4, win that game, and now have an opportunity to qualify for the playoffs against New Mexico State University, where unfortunately, unfortunately, Shift, they didn't play so hot in that first series against New Mexico State.
Yeah, definitely not, but we definitely have learned, if anything, that ice comes in much more of a form than just frost, as we saw the map 4 and map 5 kind of clutch up when it comes to Colorado out of Colorado Springs. But this is a totally different ball game, because for New Mexico State, like you mentioned, last time they played, wiped the floor with them. Pretty easy 3-0 through and through. Now, that said, that was a long time ago. And I think when you look at this Colorado Frost team over what they were able to do in the back half of the kind of second split, you know, some favorable results coming out. You take down LMU, you take down NAU, two teams not really all that pretty formidable. Words are becoming difficult, but you also send a team like Grossmont to map 5. So the improvements have absolutely been there. We've seen that. It just comes down to, have there been enough improvements? Because for New Mexico State, they're looking like a more well fleshed out team between all three modes.
And absolutely so. And really what kind of, I guess, separates these two teams the most, just speaking from statistics specifically, is the fact that not only do we just see Colorado State come off of a nice hot win, but at the same time, their struggles when they were there were very apparent and were very flawed, or were just full of flaws.
Right.
So when you take a look at a New Mexico State University roster who overall, at least here inside of season 3, has had a nice top cut record of 5-6 compared to a 3-8 for the side of Colorado Frost. Although that doesn't tell the full story, I think the first best of 5 series between these two teams definitely does.
Yeah, and if you're going to go map 5 versus Wyoming, how are you going to improve upon that to beat down a team that's much better than Wyoming? That's kind of, I think, the big question. You know, we talk about this or hear that conversation point like in traditional sports. Like, if you're going to lose to X, how are you going to beat Y? You know what I mean? That's kind of the same situation that we have in front of us right here. Now, the thing that we kind of got to keep in mind is when these two teams had played each other last, you know, it was a 3-0. But when you look at it from Colorado Frost's POV, you know, you're looking at a situation in which you're able to at least keep the hard point pretty close. That's going to have to be the case again. You got to come out the gate swinging versus New Mexico State squad. If you lose map number 1, you're not going to feel very great about going into a search and destroy and a control where memory will serve you. You got blown out in both of them, 6-0, 3-0 between the search and then the control immediately afterwards. And, you know, that was a while ago, but not that long ago to where you've completely forgotten about that. So there definitely is some consideration there as far as, have you been able to kind of take that on the chin, learn from it, improve through that second split, and come out as a better team overall when you're looking at that from the Colorado Frost POV?
I mean, you kind of said beforehand, right? You know, okay, a team that's worse in terms of overall seeding, in terms of record, sure, the side of Wyoming wasn't great. However, they, in my opinion, honestly didn't play down as they were kind of a bad team that was in the bottom cut. And yeah, they beat some, you know, some of the worst competition in the bottom cut and were able to get into the qualifier. They looked like a very good team that just had a couple of miscalculations go their way, and that's why they lost the series in it overall. So the complexity of this series kind of piggybacks off that fact where, okay, we don't really know where Colorado Frost stands against the top opponent unless you look at their previous record from the top cut. So if you base it off Wyoming, you're saying, okay, yeah, they beat a team that statistically is a bad team. No, that was a good team that has turned it up at the end of the season. Colorado now have to do the same thing here, and it starts on Moscow. And folks, if you love Russians, if you love mansions, you're going to love this series. Moscow, raid Moscow is your map 5 series.
Now, are we saying that you have to love Russians, or do you have to specifically love Soviets because we're in the Cold War era? Because that's a totally different dynamic altogether. But hey, how about this? Opening off the rip start, coming through New Mexico will kind of win the gunfight. But Colorado Frost spawning on the bottom side of the minimap, they have a decision to make here. Do you want to play for the hard point? Do you want to play for the rotation? And honestly, they've got a situation where if you find the kills, why not both? And that seems to be the case unfolding in front of our eyes.
Back PD control for the side of NMSU for the time being, and as Proplex finds a kill over towards that right side. Folks, you're gonna, if you were at least watching the last series, you're not gonna be surprised by the Colorado State or Colorado Frost AR players in Proplex as well as Metro, because those two players were the backbone of every single game mode, whether it be Respawn or SND, for the side of Colorado Frost, looking to do the same here at map number 1.
Yeah, really good rotation coming through for Colorado. Just because I've previously mentioned, because they get those early street spawns, they've got options and they use them very well. Mostly, again, granted, because the kills come through very convincingly for the Colorado Frost. But now it just comes down to, can you actually hold? That was one of the things that Wyoming really tested Colorado on in that map 4. They're going to have to be better here. And, well, bless up. You get a little bit of RNG spawning right in front of that police station for one more potential hold. But Hellboy's going to get top police, and he will likely run amok up top here.
Oh, they had a great opportunity for a Finch play, and it works out for the back spawns. They've got it busted to the front door once again, though, as Anakin gets some shots with the Krig in towards the laundry area. Players around the back side are going to get cut down. So with about 30 seconds left, your mind now thinking to rotations, but you're still hitting this from the front. Great kills, 2 in a row there from a couple of players on the side of NMSU. But more importantly, they held basically a full 35-40 seconds. They're going to be able to rotate on over towards P3. But, oh, look who it is. Kodiaks. He's waiting for one, isn't able to find the second, but they've got those kills ready, waiting, and lined up.
And Colorado kind of defaulting to playing a little bit more passive on this rotation. They weren't sure if anyone from New Mexico State had slipped through. So you see number 8 in Proplex all the way in the back trying to anchor, which kind of leaves Kodiak's out on an island by himself playing mid-map. And so far the initial time looks okay, but New Mexico State has a pretty good opportunity with numbers from the front to actually break in. And, well, they do find the first blood already in this engagement, and they're looking to follow up with more behind it.
Great Semtex kill there. Goes ahead and makes sure the spawns are cleared out. Colorado Frost maintains them for the time being. Entity gets the kill there onto Kodiaks. So once again, you talked about a potential push from the front. Is it going to be able to work? Well, we're about to find out if the gunfights can go in their way first and foremost. 4 in a row from Entity. Looking for 5. There he goes. Looking for 6 up towards the top. There he goes. A little couple of shots to follow on along with it. 6 in a row. 1 more will find streaks. Maybe a bit of time in the hill could go ahead and serve well for that bidding as well. But with the artillery barrage and that cruise missile on the miss, looking over middle map, Kodiaks, if he's able to find the gunfight, well, he'll get the streaks, and there they are. Artillery barrage in the back pocket. 1 more finds him the cruise.
Yeah, it's a really smart play for Entity. There's no need for you to be the first one onto the hard point. Why not just go ahead and lock down the middle, see if you can even catch out information on players rotating, and then there's number 8. So now full streaks are coming through, and that is not great news for the Colorado Frost. They will have a little bit of initial time here, but Metro can't do too much. He's got to keep this position in gold. That's going to be the bridge of success largely for UCCS. They need to open up multiple lanes, try to hit this hard point, and here comes Metro on the flank.
We had Arctos go ahead and find himself on a 9 streak earlier in our first match, but now it's a double-digit 10 spree for Entity, looking to find even more, but more importantly, hold down the rest of this point as well. Because that's 30 seconds of more time. You would get that. You're up by about 80 points early on in the hard point, and, well, then you're sitting pretty for the rest of it, rotating back over to P1. You were able to break pretty much through the entirety of P2, but now it's a break back. Colorado Frost, they show their arm strength. They get back into the point. They get a couple of kills. More importantly, a 4 down. Now it's the side of NMSU who have to get back to middle map here, all spawning over towards Eskies. But, oh, shift. Turn your attention to players number 1 and 3 trying to get those P2 spawns.
Yeah, it's again, it was kind of a 50-50 battle as far as the foot timing to get over towards that police department. Even saw Kodiaks thinking that New Mexico State had already gotten through the middle of the map. That wasn't 100% the case. It was, like you mentioned, just Entity and Anakin who were trying to make that rotation around the back. Kodiaks will now realize the follies of his mistake and try to correct by working his way through the apartments. That will be dealt with, but for NMSU, to be fair, there's so much attention towards the P2 side that Colorado can actually gain a lot of time here on Metro, and that seems to be indeed the case. I mean, they've got 4 numbers that are not only inside the hard point, but also working through lobby. This is pretty good timing overall for UCCS.
Well, other teams also will kind of opt to go for those P2 spawns more than holding down middle map, because when you think about P1, you usually think about, you know, a heavy contested hard point, and that's just not the case. Colorado Frost, they've won all of their gunfights around the point. 4 go down once again for the side of New Mexico State, and now Shift, the Aggies are on the back heel, because look who's coming through the front door. Even though Hellboy's in the back finding a couple, we'll make it 2, and basically giving them spawns once again. It was a great opportunity for Colorado Frost to push up and get in towards the point. However, it falls apart as player number 8 will fall. Proplex was the last one. New Mexico State, they've got the advantage, and they got P2 held down.
And not only is that an important double kill for Hellboy to lock down the back, he just needs to start feeling some flavor. He was 1-11 at one point in time. I think it was like 0-9 to start. So now that he's found a couple of kills and a couple of separate lives back to back, you're gonna start really warming up. And that's not good news for Colorado Springs, because if he starts coming into activity, I mean, you've largely been playing a 4-on-3 just by statistics so far. He's only got 3 seconds with the hill time, and before that, he only had 1 kill. So not great news here for Colorado Frost. They need to find a way to break, and with only 30 seconds to do so, you have to be really careful about how many numbers you want to commit to trying to actually work into the second hill. And with that last elimination, it looks like they will give us our answer. It'll be none. They're not going to throw nobody else towards this hard point and just default to rotating to 3.
I mean, kind of following your point off of the Hellboy, you know, making a bit of a turn up here instead of this map. At a certain point, yes, he's holding down spawns in each and every point on the map to where, you know, you've got the back PD held down, but more importantly speaking, when you do have a player like Hellboy being your back line, once you can get kills with your back line, that clears out the spawns even further. And Shift, it's happening again. A breakdown from Colorado Frost holding on to P3. They rotate early, and now they start to spawn out. New Mexico State flying through the back. Entity, Hayes, they find two. Kodiak's the last line of defense here to try and hold the push front, but it's not going to stay at bay for long. New Mexico State, the Aggies, well, they break back in, and this has been a runaway pretty much every single time New Mexico has broken into a point.
And the same problems that Colorado Frost had versus Wyoming are starting to creep back into the conversation against New Mexico State. It's just, you're going to give away 25 plus seconds on P2, but then tell me that you're not going to zone the rotation at all? I mean, there's no way you can react to where New Mexico State's coming from, and Anakin getting 2 kills to the middle of the map on that break attempt just can't happen. You've got to find that trade and then readjust your defense. So Anakin really, for my money, single-handedly opens up that hard point and puts this game potentially out of reach, pending, of course, that New Mexico State can break once more here on the 4th hill.
Well, they held down for about 25 seconds of scrap the last time when the side of New Mexico State was ready for rotation, but they were okay giving it up because, well, here it is. Streaks in the back pocket. They find one, looks for the second, tries to curve it around in the middle map, almost is able to find 2 with it. However, what that does is it allows for the side of New Mexico to start the pinch play, make the flank around. Anakin there, looks for Doggy Door, potentially one more player trying to come on through, and, well, oh my goodness, Kodaks. Yeah, well, we'll be seeing you, bud. Cut down, tripped off, and, well, 6 feet under. As New Mexico State Shift off just one streak alone, don't have to use the artillery there. Able to break in for a good 30 seconds and potentially more.
We can categorize everything we've seen in Hardpoint really from the Colorado Frost as the break attempts from New Mexico State have been too easy. It's just, it's too quick, it's too convincing. Entity even working for late streaks, not that they really even need it. And well, actually beyond that, he's going to have to get this 8th kill just to make sure he can get back up to another cruise missile, as he never actually used the artillery strike first and foremost, but will be denied the opportunity. This would be incredible if Colorado Frost can do it, but the good news is, in the first 2 times we've seen this first hill, they've been good here. So if you can do that once more, maybe there's an opportunity to string together the first hill into the second, but the kills will not be favorable to that storyline, as already it's a 3-for-1 exchange favoring the Aggies.
The problem we saw for the first 10 seconds of the hill shift was the side of Colorado Frost. They tried to go for the spawns like New Mexico State had been doing the previous 2 times. New Mexico State makes the adjustment. They get in the middle map, and well, as you see, Hayes and Anakin both go ahead and find 2. It's going to be a 1-versus-1 gunfight. Somehow Kodiak stays alive, but the quick shots will finish him off over the top. Looking for more. The spawns over towards P3, P4 have been red. However, the first line of defense was not able to get cut down. Hayes finds 1. Metro flies in, finds another. Entity 1 with the artillery barrage, and then another Krieg to pick it up. Kodiak flies through at the end. 20 seconds of scrap time. It's been heavily contested this time. New Mexico State University knew better than to let the side of Colorado Frost have a bunch of time. And this should be about over since the side of New Mexico State has those spawns, and more importantly, they're up by 120 points with about 9 seconds left to win.
Yeah, it's not looking very favorable, is it? And, I mean, Hellboy just kind of happy to be here, right? I mean, you've got 2 teammates that are over 30 kills. Jose's about to be at 20 himself. As soon as he finds one, there it is. So, I mean, I hate to kind of pander down towards it, but that was a 3v4. I mean, New Mexico State got so much value off of the SMG line that, to be fair, Hellboy wasn't even required to do too much. I mean, when your SMGs are clearing that much space, and Hellboy's like, bros, I'm trying to anchor.
Oh, Moscow too.
Okay. Like, I guess never mind. I don't need to. Like, it's just, there's not a lot required of him to really do too much. So, tough scenes, I think, overall for Colorado. I go back to that 3rd hard point in the second rotation. If you're going to give him 25 seconds on the prior hill, you better lock down 40 on the next. Otherwise, something's gone wrong, and, well, something went wrong there.
I don't even think it was just something. I think it was everything that went wrong, did go wrong for the side of Colorado Frost, especially when you pointed out those rotations over to P3. I mean, you gotta hold those down, and it was to your point as well. You kind of talked about how you weren't zoning off those lanes, making sure you had players pushed up on the map to prohibit that push. New Mexico State, every single time they wanted to break from P2 after getting those last 25 seconds of scrap time, they broke on through because they had 2 people pushing each and every lane that they needed to go through to not only get the spawns, get through the front of the point. And again, it also comes down to winning those gunfights. And if you're not able to win those gunfights at the front of the hill, you're not going to get the hill time. So with that being said, New Mexico State University, better hardpoint team overall. They showed that in the first series that they played against Colorado Frost in that first best of 5 series during split 1, week 6. They best them here once again, take a 1-0 series lead. And Shift, I hate to say it, but you said it beforehand once again. Going to the
Had to win that
SMD,
map.
6-0 and then a 3-0 in the control after the fact. I hate to be the bringer and the harbinger of bad news, but
you can't start behind
yeah.
against this New Mexico State
No.
team. That's the one thing that I think we've really kind of learned for sure when it comes to, if you're going to beat New Mexico State, you got to take that opening hard point and put the pressure on their search and destroy, which is about 50-50, and their control, which is kind of around the same. The thing about it is, and why we say that is, for Colorado Frost, their hard point has been probably one of the weakest points of their season so far, especially versus teams that are technically rated above them.
True.
So trying to find a way to win both search and destroys versus a New Mexico State team, that's where it becomes a little bit far reaching, right? I mean, that conversation exists a lot of times in the CDL top challengers, trying to find a way to talk to an underdog team and say, hey, by the way, now you've got to win both search and destroys versus this team that's incredible at search, or, better than you at search, is it paints a very nasty picture. So in my mind, I mean, you can't go down 0-2. That much we know for sure when it comes to Colorado Frost. But you're going to have to come back through and either win this map plus the next, or do you still need to find a way to steal that second at hard point? Like, that's what's required. You have to find 2 map wins in the next 3. And in my mind, you're going to have to do it right here on the search and on the control if you want to have a chance to upset this New Mexico State team.
Yeah, I mean, to your point as well, I mean, if they do want to go ahead and win that 4th map or be able to take that pending a control win or an S&D win, the last time they played New Mexico State, they played on raid and lost 250 to 183.
Exactly.
So, albeit it was close, sure. However, again, you're now in a series where New Mexico State, they've had 6 additional weeks essentially to go ahead, get back to where they need to be and be a better respawn team. They show their gun skill and strength over the side of Colorado Frost. And again, I said it kind of when you were pointing something out there, but on Moscow, you don't typically see those SMGs being those dominant players like you would see those AR players who are going to be able to hold those long lanes. Colorado, they got shut down. And I don't mean just in a 4v4. In a 3v4, their ARs got shut down.
Yeah, that's not great news. I mean, you could probably tell off his tone. The audience at large is probably thinking, that doesn't sound all that favorable because it's not. The other thing to kind of keep in mind, for this New Mexico State team, even though both teams have lost to a lot of the same opponents, New Mexico State has played those better opponents closer than we've seen in Colorado Frost as well. So, regardless of the fact that Hellboy wasn't required to do too much in that prior game, he's got the capability of stepping up. He's got the capability of going toe-to-toe with some of the best players in the Pacific. We've seen that already. So it comes down to, for Colorado Frost, you're going to have to fight this on multiple fronts going forward. The SMG line for the Aggies just took over. I mean, absolutely took over. On a map like Moscow, no map is bigger than Moscow outside of Miami that we have, but you could even argue that because of where the SMGs fight, Miami technically is still smaller to an SMG player than a map like Moscow. So there's a lot to be left kind of wanting, I think, off that first map overall, at least from my point of view for Colorado Frost. And I would love to see them come out the gate, play a little aggressive, and really take it to New Mexico State and see if maybe you can kind of set the tone early here. But as much as they want to push to the middle of the map, Anakin has already made his way to A for what looks to be a plant. And the Metro falling will mean that, this will go down for sure.
45 seconds left, shots in middle map. It was Hellboy who found the first blood in the round here, and first blood in the game, as Colorado Frost now are going to be having to kind of reach back into their back pocket and say, okay, how do we break this one? Especially when the ARs are all playing extremely close together, and every player from the side of New Mexico State has an angle or at least a line of sight to get to the bomb while they're also playing very close. And if you look at the side of Colorado Frost, they have nobody playing together. Everybody very spread out on an island in 3 different parts of the map, looking over towards the bedroom and bottom bedroom. It's going to be Proplex, get some shots down. Nobody willing to challenge directly yet. Kodiaks will fall. Proplex, the last one alive in a 1 versus 3. Only 10 seconds to make something work. And that's how you win a round if you're the side of New Mexico State and Shift. I gotta say, Colorado Frost, although they did go ahead and win a 6-4 game, a heartbreaking loss for Wyoming in a game that they get so much momentum from coming into the series, it seems like everything's been out the window, especially in that round where it just did not seem like there was any team chemistry on the map. And again, that 3 versus 3 retake, they were all spread out and nobody played together. And then you saw New Mexico State, everybody was in the bedroom, or at least top and bottom.
This is purely speculative, but I feel like largely you see one of 2 results after an intense best of 5 like Colorado Frost just got out of. Either number 1, the team can carry that energy into the next match and come out swinging, or number 2, they're just exhausted. And it's very difficult to find a way to actually stabilize yourself going up against a tougher opponent. That's one of the things that I think made a lot of the CWL lower bracket runs so special, was the team that could carry that momentum after an intense battle in the lower bracket could just steamroll through teams as they fell down and kind of had the same, unfamiliar being of getting a loss and then having to go back and to battle right away. So Another strong start here for New Mexico State with the first 2 kills, a 3v2 situation. The bomb is still in hand, though, for the Colorado Frost, and they seem to want to go to B, and they do know that Entity's playing top laundry. It just comes down to will they respond to Oze in the middle? Nope, they will not.
Oh, it's tough. Once again, this time it's the side of Colorado Frost played together. And then they just get picked off in a 1 versus 2 gunfight. O'Hays is able to best it, and although he's pretty damn weak at the end of that gunfight, when you catch them by surprise and they just don't expect anybody to be playing through Zig, that's how you're going to win 9 of your 10 rounds. And as New Mexico State University has gone up 2-0 here in the Search and Destroy, this is looking a lot like what we saw, not only in the hard point in terms of slaying, but more importantly, you've got Hellboy who's got 2 kills, and that's basically what, maybe a fifth of what he got in the hard point. So,
yeah. All right, well, you're going to have to really stabilize right here. You cannot go down 0-3 if you're the Colorado Frost. It's a must-win round in my mind. And the first blood not going to be very favorable to that storyline. Once again, just a hard push over towards A. Metro does find a trade. That'll keep the middle of the map in favor of Colorado Springs. But they need to do more than that, and Neon gets caught rebounding underneath the basketball hoop. Not great news. 2v2.
Anakin had a great shot there with the 74U over to basketball to even things out. And unfortunately, now it's a 1 versus 2. This time it's New Mexico State on the back burner. Hellboy just playing his life up top towards the bedroom. 2-1. Hasn't really found any action inside of this round just yet. But the one thing I can say for certain is Colorado Frost are playing this one very closely together. And player number 5 also looking over towards A to make sure nobody can either A, grab that bomb or get the plant down in succession. They're going to spread out, though. Player number 8. See Proplex playing over towards B to prohibit the push. And, oh, that's just unfortunate. Metro, he was looking out money the entire time, and now you have Hellboy push up onto the bomb. Shots come through. Round win for the side of Colorado Frost. And, well, unfortunate COD timing at first, but was able to find the shots and the kill to follow suit. It's just a good round, really. They got good trades, and they got the first blood, which is the most important thing.
Metro finds all 4. So
also fair.
That helps. I mean, a must-win round. And I will say this much: I do like the fact that Colorado Frost is putting a lot of attention in the middle of the map on their defense. The first round they full flood out a kitchen to get control of it. This time it's Metro playing with Proplex to make sure it stays in their control the entire time. And the reason why is because it opens up all these opportunities to make sure that even if you allow the plant to come down, that happens right there. Where do you exit if you're New Mexico State? So really good attention to detail, I think, for Colorado Frost overall. And then I think just generally making sure they're not over-committing off the rip to fully stack in the middle and just using it later in the round.
I think what worked really well for Colorado Frost, specifically inside of the S&D against Wyoming, and I don't know how well it would work here against a team like New Mexico State, but pushing very aggressively towards middle map and sending all 4 players there and just overwhelming the opposition, whether it be on defense or offense, has worked out in spades for them. And this time they really don't need to do that. They just send everybody over towards A, 1 towards middle. Proplex gets picked off, and as they've got 3 players pushed up, Bomb's going to go down over towards B, but O'Hays looking to make the sneaky play. Shots there on the Metro is going to be able to find 1. Bomb goes down, somehow escapes with his life. Ego chow for a second, but backs right back off. Entity finds 1. Trade comes through. 1 versus 1. Pushing over towards the blue van. Jeez. And Hayes on a 3 spree finds the last kill. 2 versus 3 retake New Mexico State. A round they had no business winning. Take it, and more importantly, that puts them up to 3-1. Shit, that's a round that Colorado Frost has to win.
He's shooting nukes out of the 74U. 4 shots there, no problem. Backs out. Secondary challenge. Gets the read on Kodiak's, by the way, off of that peak. That's actually so valuable for this eventual retake, as his teammate was able to help clean up Kodiak's. And then those shots right over the hood of the van. Absolutely picture perfect. 3 in a row, 7-2. And New Mexico State, as you mentioned, really just stealing away around from the Colorado Springs team of the Colorado Frost.
See what happens on offense here. Last time, try to bring it over towards A. This time, they'll bring it back to B. Trophy system goes out. Doesn't actually go ahead and find the Semtex, though, in the process. Over the top, Metro finds those first couple of shots. And last time they were on defense shift, it was Metro who found 4 kills through the round. So as he tries to go ahead and find a couple of shots over the top, get some information, but more importantly, New Mexico State is absolutely pinched here. They have been contained, corralled throughout the entirety of it. Entity tries to turn onto 1. Colorado Frost, strength in numbers, 3-2. Mexico State still had the advantage, but would have been an easier way to work it.
The Aggies really need to understand that Colorado Frost are putting a lot of attention in the middle of the map. You're not going to be able to get away with these 4-man floods on the extremities of the map, either towards A or towards B. You have to put some consideration onto these Frost members in the middle of the map. You don't have to challenge them fully, but throw some shoulders, throw some nades, make sure that they're always paying attention over towards Zig before you actually execute, because if they're getting mid-map control and they're getting it for free, those members can just turn their attention to the open stairs towards A or through pillars towards B, which is why we've seen success now. 2 defenses in a row for the Colorado Frost. Really good stuff from them still. I still like the fact that they're putting that attention there. But for New Mexico State, they definitely need to be understanding that this is a set play from Colorado overall.
I mean, not only that, you also have the opportunity then to set up flank plays and pinch plays instantaneously with that mid-map control, but Anakin. Beautiful shots with that 74. You go ahead and make it a 3 versus 2. New Mexico State, unfortunately, they got picked off early, but now they've found themselves in a great spot. Hellboy started out 2-1, 1-3 since that point. However, huge kill in the round here. Makes it Neon in a 1 versus 3. Shots over the top, shoulders are thrown. Not going to be able to find the kill, but the shots are there. That benefits New Mexico State a bit more, though, Shift, as they now have the information on where Neon is. They can look over towards middle map, and, well, they've got the bomb down over towards B, too. So, once again, with 30 seconds left, a very difficult spot to be.
This would have to be one of the more incredible CCL moments if Neon can pull this off. Finds the first. It's isolated. He can get a regen off. Time, the biggest problem, but both of the defensive members from New Mexico State would be in front of him as he goes to try to collect that bomb. So, I was starting to breathe a little bit of life into the lungs, just hoping that we'd see something, but not going to be the case. And okay, so now we're starting to see both teams defensively are finding success through the middle of the map. And I get it. You know, trying to peek through the Zig blinds is difficult from the offensive side of the map. But you've got to set something up to get a peek, whether it's a double chow, little slide bait and switch, something. For the offensive side here for New Mexico State, I want to see them try to put some attention to the middle of the map. Don't just full flood somewhere. And it looks like Entity will actually linger mid-map. This is already better because even if he doesn't peek, he can delay this angle and make sure that no one can actually flank through the open stairs. So already a little bit better. And how about it? Zay is going to make his way up those open stairs to see if they can isolate anyone sitting in the middle of the map.
We also got the Semtex over the middle that did get a bit of information with the player that was flak, and somehow Kodiak loses that gunfight. There was 2 there, sure. But that's when you got to win. 2 versus 2 now. Neon sprinting up the map, trying to chase after Entity. Doesn't realize that he went back over toward the gym, but he's just going to follow him anyways. Back around, Entity finds the challenge, but there he is. Neon somehow wins it. 8-5 thus far. 4-2 in the round we go, but a 2 versus 1. Now a 1 versus 1. Anakin skywalking across the back of the map. Nice. Shots in the back onto 1. Looks back over towards the kitchen. In towards 1. There he is. Neon in the corner. Anakin, a huge 1 versus 1. Finds the shots, but Neon's there. Clutches it up for Colorado Frost. And that might be the biggest round clutch we've seen from Colorado thus far, Shift. Difference between 5-3 or 5-2 and 4-3.
Neon just walked away the victor of 2 gunfights that I didn't think he had any business winning. The one that he takes versus Entity in the garage, he doesn't get any shots off until Entity had shot him 3-4 times. And then that last one, granted, yeah, I know that he's got his opponent weakened down to about 95 HP, but still, you felt like Anakin had the drop on him coming around the pillar a little bit sooner. So Neon goes massive. We didn't get the 1v3 last round, but we get 2 huge kills to keep Colorado Frost at the search and destroy there in round number 7. And as we go to the 8th, Kodiak Sweet.
Oh, no. And he gets 2. Oh, no. Oh, Shift. You gotta win those, baby. And now look at player number 8. Fullbreaks, he's by himself on an island. Player number 5 is still in the garage, and I get he was looking for a mid-map flank push from the side of New Mexico State since they got mid-map control, but this works out perfectly to what you were explaining beforehand, Shift. New Mexico State, they send players, they put pressure in middle map, they win the round effortlessly because then they get water steps control, and albeit, Hayes won an incredibly difficult gunfight that he had, we'll see it right here, folks. I mean, you gotta win that, Cody. You gotta win it.
Got hit shots.
That too.
Gotta hit shots. I mean, I get it. LA, it's known for its smog and limited visibility, but brother, he's right in front of you. You gotta hit those. And that's a devastating round because if you find that kill, that's the middle of the map open for Colorado Frost. But it doesn't happen here. And now all of a sudden, New Mexico State just a round away, and it's going to be back to the same set play over towards A. And I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's the exact same setup, but this time Entity actually gets caught lurking outside the art alley, and that'll be good for first blood. So Colorado Frost, I mean, how many times have we seen Anakin try to make the same set play? At a certain point, you got to feel like for UCCS, they will eventually make this play forward, but better help this time for Hellboy as he does take down Metro back through the cutout window.
Good news, he gets it down. 45 seconds left on the clock. Mexico State, oh, they're in a nice post-planned setup. Oh, Hayes, oh, once again, almost tried to make Water Steps his home and where he resides, but this time, Neon gets the best of him. 10-6 leads the way for the side of Colorado in the round. Anakin wins another crazy gunfight. Krig, 74U, but here comes the defuse. He's got to get across the map. Neon there. The challenge doesn't matter. This guy has turned around the game for Colorado Frost. We've seen Metro turn up. We've seen Proplex turn up. Oh, well, let's give Neon an opportunity to shine. As this time he's gotten inside of Colorado. Just 2 great rounds in a row.
But you've got to win an attack. That's what's been largely empty from the Colorado Frost. They have yet to really do much when it comes to their offense so far. That's going to have to change in right now, mind you, because we're going in around 10. And I'm really curious to see if they've got anything in the playbook besides these kind of little mini floods they've been trying to pull off towards B and A. I would be honestly, go big or go home. 4-man hit through mid. Just do it. Please do it.
Wow.
Please do this. Yes, I love it.
Balls to the walls. Here they go. Shots over the top. There it is. 2 down. Oh, no, not another 4 versus 2. That leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I think you guys know why, but his entity's in the back waiting for a push-up, maybe through Kitchen. Gets some bad timing and finds the kill. Proplex, though, there for the trade. Hellboy, if there's any time where you needed to be the backbone for your team to clutch up and send you to a 2-0 lead in the series, it's now. Shots there on the Metro. Player number 8 in Proplex. Gonna wisely back off, but around the back, tree head glitch there. Kill comes through. Round 11, same scenario we saw in game 2 of the last best of 5 series for Colorado Frost, except they were the ones who put it at 5-4. This time they equalize it. Does that give them a little bit of momentum shift, or is it gonna be difficult for them on the offense?
So here's why that 4-man stack is so well timed. Never have we seen the team yet in this search and destroy do the set nades into kitchen window and double chow. Now all of a sudden those 2 players from Mexico State can't go into the middle, and watch 2 and 4 they're sitting in kitchen. So now that you flood to B, you're gonna have numbers here, but Zay actually catches an angle for first blood. It's devastating for the Colorado Frost.
Spots another one out as well, and that Semtex is actually going to force them to move out of their positions for the time being. Kodiak's back over towards the side. It's a 74U on 74U, but again, you really don't want to challenge the player there, especially when Zay is now at 12-8. Neon falls 2 versus 4. They've still got bomb in hand. However, from middle map, they gave up full control. Kodiak's, can you do the impossible? 3-8, looks for 1. Shots are there. Tries to find him onto the second player from the staircase and the top ropes. He comes flying down. New Mexico State clutch up when it's needed. 2-0 up in the series they go. And that's a heartbreaker for Colorado Frost after you win 2 clutch rounds in a row to force a round 11.
The chess game was in Colorado Frost's favor, man. I mean, the 4-man stack, like mentioned, those players that have been routinely and habitually going into the middle of the map for New Mexico State were not going to do that after they just got full flooded on. They're going to sit in kitchen. And you should probably know that, especially if you're coming through an art push to B and you're tossing the same nades again, which largely they did. They saved a couple, but it was the same idea when it comes to, hey, they very well could be in the middle of the map. Because the whole theory crafted behind that play is not only are you holding off those 2 members, but if you're throwing those same nades, the players that are defensively at B are also tilting their attention, at least more heavily, towards those mid pillars to make sure nobody's pushing through. So the idea is play the outer side of the ring on that B hit, watch that long lane that's right next to laundry, and then eventually tilt your attention up to the laundry window, find an isolated kill, get the bomb down, know that that retake is coming from middle. But the problem was they never got first blood. The setup was not fully complete for Colorado Frost to lock down that outer side of the ring. So it was the right play, just a little bit poor on the execution. I still love the effort, though.
I mean, I think the poor execution also comes from the passive play that we see in typical round 11 scenarios. When you do have a team on the offensive side, you don't want to get picked off early because the defense, you know, they're going to be set up on those power positions. But to your point, that middle map, they had that played perfectly. All they needed to do was get past, because if you know you're going to make that play, then middle map is clear, and then you don't have that immediate push coming through. You fly up through B, you get the kills there, either whether it be the top window, whether it be over towards the left or the right side of the staircase, and then you get that control of that zone and that side all to yourself. But again, it's the poor execution that unfortunately loses them the round. And that was their chance. They got 6-0'd the last time in an S&D. They forced a round 11 that time. So, hey, maybe we're in for a good control that goes to round number 5. But we'll just have to wait and see, folks, on the other side of a break. Map number 3 and the potential closing to the entire season for Colorado Frost, unless they can turn it up, is imminent. I'm a Cormiel. That's I Hold Shift. We'll be back in a minute. Breaking round 11. Win a respawn that you weren't able to do in map number 1. A relative blowout, unfortunately, for the side of New Mexico State. You know, you're looking good, but, you know, raid control, it's a map that the side of Colorado Frost can dictate and dominate. Except they didn't do that against Wyoming, unfortunately. So now you're on the back foot. Now your back's against the wall. And I said it beforehand in that first series, a team with nothing to lose is the scariest sight to see for a team that has a lot to lose, up 2-0 in a series. But when you've got an entire team playing together, being able to get first bloods practically every single round in the S&D, but more importantly, play together in every statue of a map, they've already got B control, and they could capture the entirety of it unless player number 6 is able to go ahead and get top bedroom control.
Neon will find one from that back position. Proplex also on the flank, but the problem is you've already gotten lost 2 ticks of progress, and clearing out 4 members is difficult. That's an extra 60 seconds immediately. Now, the question is really for New Mexico State. You've already got Hellboy trying to be a little bit nuisance. Is that a word? Trying to be a bit of a nuisance over towards A. Do you want to play from the back and try to kind of reduce the lives as much as possible, or do you want to try to get to this objective as fast as possible and keep forcing the Colorado Frost to adjust?
I love what they're doing right now, though. Although they are kind of forcing themselves to spawn over towards that bottom bedroom, they were trying to force Colorado Frost to get a couple of lives off the board. It doesn't work out for them because, 1, now they're down in lives, and 2, Kodiaks is in their spawn, forcing them to spawn even further over towards water. Up the staircase, Neon finds Anakin. Proplex is pushed up. Unfortunate timing there, but Hellboy is there for prey, finds 1 there, looks for 2. 5 streak, almost able to be completed, however. Colorado Frost keep the side of New Mexico State at bay for the time being. They go ahead and put themselves up by 5 lives, the exact same spot that New Mexico State was in just 30 seconds ago.
I mean, slow down if you're New Mexico State. I mean, we're watching individuals kind of go their own way. This is way too disjointed, and Colorado Frost are going to feast on you if you continue to do this. Now, finally, they're starting to stack up over through art, but they've cleared very little space around the middle of the map, which means that every single hit they try to put together is going to be extremely one-dimensional, and this life count is not favorable for that whatsoever. So really good zone set up here for Colorado Frost. Proplex knows that there are players nearby, but instead just asks for help, and once more, UCCS looking pretty solid around this A zone.
I can't tell if this is a fall-apart round for New Mexico State or if Colorado Frost have just rewrote the entirety of their respawn game completely. This is looking like a complete different Colorado team that we've seen beforehand. However, all it takes is 1 good push onto the site for a team to take a round. And while they've got 3 players to stack the point and nobody even close, Water Steps, Proplex is pushing Neon. They're actually just trying to sprint to the point right now, let alone trying to get their guns up for these fights. And as 3 go down, what? I said a breakdown? But that was the biggest breakdown we've seen the entire day. Colorado somehow lose round number 1. Shit, what the hell?
Yeah, this is what happens when you just take your time, clear space, and do exactly what was the formula for success in your first hard point. Play for trades, double down, get some team shots in, because once you start to get pressure through art and onto the point, look where Colorado Springs is spawning. They're not even spawning in basketball. They're spawning like in front of the window. So the only avenue they have to actually get to the zone is through the middle of the map. And so with 4 final lives remaining for New Mexico State, that is all that's needed, because everyone's going to be running at you from the same angle, and exactly what we talked about. Team shots, trades. That's how New Mexico State is able to dominate through the first hard point, and that comes into play when you start playing off one another. It took a little bit longer than you would have liked, but it still happened nonetheless, and that's exactly what I think we came to expect from this New Mexico State team and why their respawn's been so good.
Close spawn towards the bottom bedroom. Here they come, flying through, looking for that first blood, but Hayes is playing a great spot here. However, the shot's on the 1. They can't find the second. 2 players pushed up the map. And now the spawns are all the way over at A. So you've got 2 sites to work with here. You can kind of ping-pong back between the 2. And as you've got 2 players now starting to stack on A, nobody from New Mexico State over towards it. They should be able to get 2 ticks before the contest comes through. And as they get that kill in towards middle map, player number 5 should be able to stack the point. If they get control of art once again, well, they're also going to be able to get full control of this A site. Kodiaks goes huge. Extra minute added onto the clock here. Now it's a drag race back to B, but they're on their feet instead of tires. Entity in middle map finds 1, looks for the second, will find 2, 3 sprees for the side of New Mexico State University. as they got B to work with, I guess. That's the plus.
Yeah, and you can take your time here again if you're Colorado Frost. I mean, one of the biggest bridges of success to get to the B zone is put some pressure on Kitchen, force New Mexico State to come off spawn and make a decision. Do we go and reinforce the point? Do we try to retake Kitchen? Neither are great options when you're being pressured from multiple angles at the same time. So I like the fact that Colorado Frost are continuing to play in and around the Kitchen, and even beyond that, Proplex working all the way back through Laundry. If he gets behind this play, he could blow it up, and if the kills are convincing, that's an immediate success story over towards the B zone, but he's instead going to default to just working through basketball and try to get towards the backside of Tiki to clear the zone off.
Well, he finds that kill there on the Proplex, so that's a big, or excuse me, on the O'Hays. Proplex is the one who finds the kill. Entity around the corner, looks for shots over towards the left side, finds some shots on the Metro, but unfortunately the kill doesn't follow suit. Be control for nobody thus far, except for New Mexico State, who now have a 7-life advantage, and this is where we start to dwindle down. They've got the plays up towards the spawn side, and Colorado Frost, they have no positioning like New Mexico State did in the last round to go ahead and find themselves the B control, and as I say that, it's Proplex in middle map, once again, making those big plays for the side of Colorado Frost. Difference maker, though, is going to be, A, can he continue to find these kills, and can his teammates push up the map to go ahead and find the exact same promise and prowess that we've been seeing from the Krig, and it doesn't look like it shift. 5 lives remaining, 35 seconds, and, well, this is just a very chaotic and spread out push that has no end in sight.
Yeah, the last couple of lives, and for New Mexico State, you have to give them props. They really did a nice job of making sure they continue to maintain control of the Kitchen. As soon as you lose that with lives to play and a lot of time, it becomes very difficult necessarily to make that, again, that decision off spawn. What are you going to do? If you're spawning by Laundry, which for a time they were, do you want to try to take the time to clear Kitchen and make sure you've got an avenue of approach, or do you need to go straight through, reinforce through basketball to get onto the zone itself? So Mexico State made the exact right decisions, cleared out the zones, got mid-map control, and that leads to what we saw at the end of the round there, which is a very penetrating spawn trap situation, which the Frost could never really deal with.
I mean, it was just staggered pushes from Colorado really throughout the entirety of that round, completely different than what we saw when they were on defense, and well, if you're on the defensive side now, Shift, with New Mexico State pushing back, having a 2-0 lead, you know, you lose the round 11. You're at a spot now to where, you know, it's 2 up in the series, 2-0 up in the control. This is not only the round of series point, but it's match point for the side of New Mexico State. You've got a ticket A, looking for a second tick as well, as you still got players around it. Proplex looking to bring himself back over to the point, but it's a 1-on-3 gunfight now. Player number 6 in Neon has to go big, has to make the plays, but is it going to be too late? And is A going to be captured? Absolutely. So an extra minute on the clock. You know, Colorado, it's been great watching them play. It's been an opportunity for them to really showcase what they have, and yes, indeed, it really was a pleasure seeing them turn it around from what we would have seen otherwise inside of split 1, but realistically speaking, after that first round loss against New Mexico when they were down by 7 lives and somehow they won that round, did it just kind of feel like all the life was taken out of the air?
It's kind of hard to say that for sure, but you're definitely seeing 2 different play styles and how quickly things can go wrong when you're playing kind of a retroactive and reactive play style, which Colorado seems to be doing more often than not. Little panic melee for Anakin right there, or a misclick, one of the two. We've seen it happen multiple times, but it's one of those things that's going to get you back to the point of it. New Mexico State are coming through and they're playing aggressive. And at this level, that can get you through. Now, the problem is, you know, as we anticipate that New Mexico State will get through this Colorado Frost team, when you get into playoffs, you're going to have to show some restraint at times. And that's even been showcased versus Colorado Frost team. At times, they have played restraint, and they've been rewarded for that versus a very aggressive New Mexico State team. So it's kind of a battle of 2 worlds right now, but overall, the more proactive play style for the Aggies has definitely come out on top more often than not.
I will say, too, the one thing I do like about Colorado is even though they're down, you know, 0-2 now, they've still been playing very aggressively in all of the rounds of control thus far, and that was kind of something you were touching on, but now here come the streaks from O'Hays. This could kind of go ahead and maybe end it a bit, but it forces players inside, you know, everywhere, and specifically Kitchen. They set up the pinch play, take Colorado Frost, basically, and force them into their spawn. The only player really that on Colorado that's going to be able to make big plays happen is the player over towards Bedroom, and well, they're going to solo him out with 2 players now making the push. Well, Metro, he's got streaks now. The artillery barrage to work with. 9-10, now 9-9. They're on the defensive side. We saw him in a position like this beforehand, and well, with 15 seconds left in, all players actually at the 50% mark of the map. This should be a win on the defensive side, and it will be a win on the defensive side. They got a fighting chance now, Shift.
Yeah, with resources to play with, absolutely. We could definitely see this go to a map 4 if they use these streaks correctly. But that's the key word. Will they use them correctly? So as you're starting to look for this next offense for Colorado, keep in mind that the streaks will find the most favor over towards A because the ability to get away from them is a little bit more difficult. So I would love to see them come out, maybe do a 2-2 split, passive setup over towards B, double hit up the middle, see if you can get that mid-map control, and then just go down open stairs and full flood to B. Try to put a little bit of pressure onto New Mexico State to not necessarily be able to commit, like we mentioned before, to either kitchen nor the zone. I would love to see them go 2-2 mid-B here, just to see if they can maybe force some decisions once more from New Mexico. But instead, they're going to go for a full 4-man flood, which is also fine. It's just the problem of you need to watch this flank from the open stairs, and Jose is already there, and he's already found first blood.
Well, Entity also in the money window is able to find a couple of shots and then a kill to follow suit. Colorado State now forcing their way up the map. Entity, oh, that's a huge gunfight. You got to win, but unfortunately the shots just aren't able to go ahead and find the full kill. But as he gets in the middle map, now it's an opportunity to get into kitchen. You got to get your gun up there as he flies around the corner. Now it's Hayes. He's got some shots on the one, slides back in. Ego Chow, ring around the Rosie, wins the kill. Neon falls. Control of B back in their possession. Money window. Kodiaks can make a huge play here, but drift your attention over to player number 4 in Hellboy up in towards top bedroom. He's going to spawn them closer towards A, but they're really fine giving up A right now because if they can hold him at B and then make sure the spawn trap comes through as well, it doesn't really matter. And, well, we still got streaks to work with. Metro finds one, and, yeah. I don't know what that was about. They got a free push at A. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, well...
It's not often you trade 8 kills to get the streak for 1 kill on the backhand like that. I'm a bit puzzled on that. I mean, there's pressure being established on the kitchen for the Colorado Frost, which is not bad for Colorado and Colorado Springs, but that's just a streak that you need, you feel like, eventually. Not there. You finding 1 kill while you're still capturing the A zone is a bit puzzling, but the lives are even at 19 for now, and if we're being completely candid here, Kodiak has the ability to blow up the kitchen completely, but only takes down 1. That'll be good information for Proplex, who is on the zone. Don't get snapped on. Oh, my goodness. And he's going to have enough help from Metro. So now you got to stack this. You've got a couple of kills. Just get on. There's no reason to be zoning. Get on, stack. Watch that 1E window. But that's the big problem. Jose was able to earn himself an artillery strike, so he'll spend that to make sure that for NMSU, they can retake.
Kodiak still there. 2 players coming over towards the left. Turns at perfect timing. Whoa, we saw him and still continue to turn back to cutout. Metro up top in bedroom. Now a huge gunfight to Neon back in middle. Map entities there. Shuts down the push. Now all they have is water control, and even then that's a stretch as money window control is for New Mexico State. He looks over towards his left. Hayes, Anakin both find themselves a kill. Back over towards bedroom is where we'll find the spawns, but more importantly, oh my goodness. Shit, we can't say enough good about Zay throughout the entirety of this control. 32 and 21 has shut down every lane, every angle imaginable throughout the entirety of this game. And now Proplex and the Colorado Frost, they're not really sure what to do. You see them running back and forth in their spawn like chickens with their heads cut off. At least they find the kill to get the flanker out of their spawn. Artillery barrage is there, but doesn't find any kills with it. So another streak that's quote-unquote wasted. But, I mean, the cruise missile could have been the hugest thing to get them out of their spawn here.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot that we could talk about when it comes to what happened in the breakdown, trying to use that cruise missile, but it comes down to a 7v1, Proplex by himself, 14 seconds. Yeah, not looking all that great. There comes the final elimination, and New Mexico State will be the next team out of the Pacific to get into the playoffs. And yeah, it's just, the call for the streaks was just, if we're being candid, they were not correct. And I think a lot of it is, if you're going to come back down 0-2, you're going to need those streaks for when they're absolutely required to get yourself out of a sticky situation. And they weren't in a sticky situation. You had a free capture at the A zone. You had a player push through kitchen. You had a pretty good opportunity to win the middle of the map and then eventually reevaluate how you wanted to take that B zone. So maybe a little bit of panic, maybe a little bit of overcautiousness coming through when it comes to pulling those
Yep.
through. But I think at the end of the day, the team that made playoffs was the team that looked the better on the day overall. New Mexico State played extremely well, and they will be represented in the playoffs out of the Pacific region.
Wyoming, they lose a heartbreaker to Colorado Frost. Colorado Frost then go ahead and unfortunately, 0-3, they get knocked out and they'll be sent home with a pat on the back and a GG. And it was a great season for them nonetheless. They got into the top cut.
Yeah, that's
Unfortunately for
big.
them, they were, look, out of 180 teams, getting into the top cut of your specific region is already an opportunity to go ahead and make playoffs. But the fact that you got there, that's great happenstance for getting back next season and continuing to improve and progress from where you were in the last season. I think a lot of teams kind of get the stigma if you don't make playoffs, then realistically your season was kind of a bust. But again, that's just another kind of drive for the next year to say, hey, let's come back. Let's do it again.
Sure.
Let's make our great comeback. Let's get our team in the playoffs this time. And if not playoffs, top of their cut, or into a spot where then they are the team that has that better seeding and only has to play one game to qualify for the playoffs. And there you go. You got a complete turnaround. So a lot of the teams that are out right now, don't expect to see the last of them. Most of the teams here, they're going to come back for next season. And you have
For
have to believe that not only are they going to be more hungry, they're going to take all the time in the offseason that they can to practice if they're really caring about their craft. And then next year, you're going to say, oh, yeah, the Colorado Frost team that almost beat New Mexico State in the S&D and had a really good showing in the respawns. Yeah, they're back, but this time they have a chance in the playoffs now to really upset some teams. And that can be said for any of the teams that got knocked out early on inside of the regional qualifiers or even beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, finishing top 50% of the league is incredible when you saw the number 180 schools. And just beyond that, Colorado coming out as a state overall in force with two teams from Colorado Boulder,
Mhm.
Colorado State, and Colorado Springs. And that's incredible compared to what we've had in the last couple of years. So, yeah, they're currently in the Pacific Division, which say what you will about online COD. I mean, if they continue to put the effort forward, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a mountain region next year in which they're playing up against teams that are a little bit
True.
closer together with them. So, yeah, really good stuff through and through. A bit unfortunate they weren't able to put together a kind of a good run versus New Mexico State team, but I think that says more about the Aggies than it necessarily does negatively about Colorado
Fair.
Frost. This Aggies team is looking really, really strong. They only really lost the 5-6 teams that are above them in this division, of which I
Yep.
still hold the Pacific region overall in a pretty high regard. It was very competitive from top to bottom. I mean, outside of Cal State Long Beach,
For
everybody
sure.
else was beatable, I think, at the end of the day. And so that's going to lead to hopefully some good things for this New Mexico State team once they eventually get to playoffs on Friday.
Well, folks, we've got playoffs coming up on Friday, but tomorrow back at 8 o'clock, Chattanooga versus LSU Purple, a
It's going
round
to be good.
one elimination match. Yeah, no, it's going to be great. And well, regional qualifiers not only go on today, but they'll end tomorrow with 2 round 2 matches after that LSU Purple and Chattanooga match. It's been a great time here. Thank you for staying up late with us on the East Coast. And I know it's pretty late over on the Pacific side as well. And you usually don't see COD this late in the morning, at least for the CCL and whatnot around it. But folks, my name is McCormill. Alongside myself has been I Hold Shift. It's been great to entertain you here tonight. And hopefully you've enjoyed the matches. We'll be back at 8 o'clock tomorrow for the last day of the regional qualifiers.